Hello, welcome to Anything Relevant. I want to do a video about all this backlash with Game of Thrones on this season being the lowest rated, the least enjoyed, the most criticized, etc. So, it's not the greatest. And when you cut down to 6 episodes when it was predominantly 10 or more, 10 I believe, yeah, there's going to be a lot of things glossed over. And when you gloss over things, it pays to understand the mechanics of the world. Sure, it pays to know kind of the algorithm that got you there from episode 1 to this point. So, I disagree with a lot of the outrage. We're almost up to 1 million people wanting them to redo season 8. Numbers at a certain point you would wow, that's a lot of people doing something. Maybe we should reconsider. Well, when you look at statistics, or not statistics, I apologize. When you look at it like the ratio, you got about 400 million, maybe 600 million people that are watching this thing illegally, legally, all over the world, whatever language, yada yada. So, if you got that many people watching it, and you got maybe 1 million people, like I say, that's a small amount when you're talking about the big grand scheme of things. Not only that, here's my thoughts on 6 episodes, and we're on the 5th episode, and this weekend starting, we're going into the finale. My knowledge of history, my knowledge of watching people in my life succeed and fail, act with the knowledge of being correct, whether they are or not. Like I've seen a little bit in life, and with that knowledge and reading about generals, kings, and emperors throughout history that were on the sorry, having a problem enunciating the prefaces. I'm gonna give up on that. On the edge, on the verge of sorry about that, guys. On the verge of peace or not. Like if you look at Rome, let's look at Rome for a second here. There was I believe, a Germanian general or chieftain that was speaking with a governor or general of Rome, and they're going over their treaties in northern Rome into the northern reach of the Germanian tribes of Europe, and there'd been a lot of campaigning. A lot of people don't know that Rome expanded through defense. It's not like, oh, we want more land, we're going to go and occupy. That happened, but not as often as these are our borders, and then they get invaded. They don't like being invaded, so they invade the people that invaded them and expand their empire. So the reason why I bring up the Romans is that something was said about them. Leave it to Rome to declare peace, but they make, I completely messed this up, so hold on. What Romans call peace, other calls a cemetery. So Rome wanted peace with people that wouldn't give them peace, so they wiped them out. And then they got peace. But what did they make? They made a cemetery. They committed an atrocity to have peace. So here's my understanding of how the Romans ended up coming to that. Well, why did they do that? Why did they just wipe them out? Well, imagine this, and they didn't know this. As deeply as we do now. They had no idea how many tribes were to the north of them. Rome had no idea. Had no idea where the ocean started again after the land ended north of their empire. And that there were hundreds of tribes. And these tribes wouldn't agree on the behalf of all tribes. They'd only agree to themselves. So once they folded over, the empire expanded. But then the neighbors that folded in, they have neighbors that they don't get along with. So now those new neighbors start attacking. Then the process starts all over again. Rome would lose thousands and thousands of lives. Important people and peasants and slaves from all walks trying to secure their borders. So with the security of their borders in the north, they kept fighting to the point of exhaustion, to the point of money tightening, the legions becoming less, how many legions they have in their empire, capable people of running them. All sorts of factors were very significant to what led someone that was so done with being lied to, so done with being misunderstood, being misrepresented on what these treaties stood for. He was just done with all this runaround. So when it came to yet another battle, he just went in whole, like all the way, like in poker, he put everything in and wiped them out. That sucks, but that's what happened. And that was the Romans. And has anyone else in history done this? I'm going to tell you yes. Yes, people have gotten to the point of wanting to rule something and destroyed it anyway. Destroyed it after the fact. Like another example that I'll use is the Mongolians. The Mongolians had to fight themselves for about 10 years or more just to unite. And once they were united, this young noble that was an outcast that earned his way up the ranks with success told them, now that we've united, the fighting ain't over. There's more fighting yet to do. So what did they do? They invaded China. They realized that China had been orchestrating the civil war of Mongolia for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, keeping them separated from each other through lies and really good trade deals and you name it. But once they were united, the Mongols, and they found out that there had been hands from China that were keeping them separated, the Chinese did exactly what the Romans did with the barbarian tribes around them as well. They would pay one to attack the other. It's exactly what America did with their colonizing, colonizing quote unquote, when they went around the world during the 50s. In the 1950s all the way to the 90s, they were setting up one third world country to fight another, or they would go to a country and destabilize it so it becomes a civil strife in the country and a new regime emerges that is more cooperative and friendly with America. They did this all over the world. So the Mongols were no different. They did the same thing. They invaded China. And once they were done fighting in China and Korea, the idea is that he sent a baggage train of all these goods, all these trade goods to the Middle East, the Khwarezmian Empire. The idea was an olive branch of trade first that they extended their hand with. But back then, these were also viewed as spying expeditions to check out your neighbor. Now, whether that is true on the Mongolian side, that this treasure that they're sending over to open up trade was just a way to spy, I really don't think so. Like, maybe just to find out some harmless stuff, because he recognized another empire, another unified empire. China was not unified when he invaded them. There's like 4 or 5 different kingdoms. and they weren't helping each other. They weren't unified in any way. So it was just one, then the other, like dominoes, one after the other, after the other, after the other, until the Song dynasty in the south was the last that held out. But before they took out them, they started this trade with the Middle East, the Khwarezmians. They wanted to. The Genghis Khan thought, I don't want to fight anymore. I only fought these guys because of what they did to us. And now that they understand that they got to pay us and not view us as something to manipulate and something to expend. So he sent his two oldest retired generals that had helped him unify Mongolia and invade and establish control and vassalship over China. So he goes really far back with these two guys, and he sends them over to the Khwarezmians with some translators to get trade going with another fellow empire that he thought was like an equal. Well, the Khwarezmians didn't see it that way. They chopped off those two emissaries' heads. Genghis Khan's oldest buddies chopped their heads off, put them in baskets, kept all the loot, didn't buy, didn't trade, didn't do shit, just confiscated it. It was a prince and a governor that hatched this up. And they didn't even talk to the emperor. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't have the details on that. But point is that this was like, no one's looking, let's just rob them. Send the heads back. I don't know who these fur-clad hill people are. I don't know who Mongols are. Never heard of them. Don't care. So there's no regard. So this is why I bring it up. Why would Daenerys burn a city? Did she go mad? Did she snap? Did she lose it? Well, when Genghis Khan was sitting in his gur and an outrider came in with a basket, dreading to be out of that gur as fast as he could. And Genghis opens up the basket, sees his two oldest best friends. He goes to the hills, goes up there for 3 days, prays, fasts. He wants to know what to do. He just finished 2 long campaigns, one in Mongolia and one in China. He didn't want to start another. He wasn't even done with China yet. But because of this insult, taking out friends, dare I say family, in his eyes, on how much blood he shed with them, that his decision after 3 days of meditating and trying to commune with what he thought was God, because when he came down, he said, I did not ask for war. I did not. He told his whole brain trust, his whole council, all of his high-ranking officers in the military, told them all, I did not ask for this. This is not what I wanted. I wanted trade. I wanted a friend among all these enemies around us. So he wanted answers. He wanted the governor. He wanted justice. So then he sends his sister's oldest sons with the task. It's an important task to go get some answers. Their heads come back in baskets. He's had enough. Now he's got to hear this from his sister. Of course, he's going to miss his nephews. Of course, he's not a monster in that regard. He's a monster in a lot of regards, but a lot of these type of monsters, when you mess with their family, you get to see they actually feel just like you do. They just don't care about people outside their family. Well, he cares about his family. So then he sends the best archer with the best crack team of riders, and they send them out and they put messages on arrows. These messages have the same thing written in 7 different languages that they know the Khwarezmians speak. And they fire these arrows over, and all it says is, you chose war. That city wasn't spared. That army wasn't spared. Surrendering, not spared. Not at all. Other cities that surrendered and opened up their gates still got wiped out because they're connected to this. They stood with them. They didn't go the other way. They didn't choose justice. They choose greed, even though they're trying to let the Mongols in and not want to get wiped out like their neighbors. Problem is, it was too late. Those 4 people had already been killed. I'm not justifying it. I'm just telling you what happened. 4 people died, so one person decided to wipe out millions. Millions in retaliation. He wasn't conquering the Khwarezmians for the sake of conquest. He got conquest as a byproduct because of revenge. I told you earlier, the Romans expanded not because of revenge. They expanded because trade wasn't understood among their bordering neighbors, and they got invaded all the time. They didn't like it, so they sent their legions up there. They crushed the opposition, swallowed the tribal areas that folded over, and that's how they expanded. They didn't expand because one person was killed or 4 people were killed. That was Mongolia. Mongolia wiped out millions. You can go on here on YouTube, type in Mongolian Khwarezmian massacre. You're going to find enough documentaries going to talk about how, and it's all debated on how many millions. But that's the thing, though. The one thing that isn't debated, whether it is millions or less. It's millions. It's just, are we talking like under 10 million? Or are we talking up to 90 million? And here's why these debates exist, is that the carbon footprint of the world at that time drastically dropped because of the depopulation of the world. And you can tie that to the Mongolians through their conquest of wiping out cities, their conquest of killing massive armies, and the stabilizing of the Silk Road to make it one of the fastest, most efficient ways and safest ways to travel from the old world into the European world, or from the Eastern world to the Western world. It was the most secure road. The whole promise was that you should be able to travel the Silk Road and never get robbed, because there's enough Mongolian outriders to keep it safe because they're patrolling. And if you tell them you got robbed, they go off and find out who robbed you, and they try to make it what they think is right. So my point is this, is that because 2 of his old war buddies and 2 of his family members get wiped out, and his retaliation is wholesale slaughter. This should sound very familiar. Daenerys from the get-go, from episode 1, what is happening to her? She's being cleaned down by servants and groped by her brother and told that he would let a whole Dothraki army rape her if it meant that they'll give him an army. She is not a crazy Targaryen by nature. She became a crazy Targaryen because of nurture. She was nurtured into it. And that what people think is snapping on the wall, that's not snapping. That's embracing. That's her being like, fine. You want me to be the monster? I have to lean into this now. I have to do this now. And let me explain to you why. Who among her council is from Marine? Nobody. They're all gone. Just like Genghis Khan, she's lost the most trusted people in her council. She got nothing left. Those people are gone now. So what do you get instead? You get the wrath. You get the wrath. And if she just took out that army and left the people, there's going to be a little bit of complacency among the Westerosi. Oh, she only took out the army. So we can build another army. And this time we'll kill her dragon. And once that last dragon's dead, then we're on even playing ground. If I have a dragon, if I'm Daenerys, and this is what the opposition's thinking, well, I'm going to put you in a state of being where you can't have those thoughts. Or if you do, it's foolish to even have them because you don't have enough to even to back up that. So of course, not only does she destroy the army, she wipes out the city. Someone like Genghis Khan took cities being wiped off the map as a point of message is a learning experience. It's he even like here's an example. This was a common thing the Mongols would say when they wanted a city destroyed, and they did it way more than once. Is that they said they didn't want a single block of stone sitting on another single block of stone. Let that sink in. Not a single block standing on another one. That means they want it as flat and pulled to the ground as possible. Every single building, every wall, every secure aspect that your city has to offer, pulled down or smashed with siege equipment. It was to take away that city. Oh, look at that city. It's got many towers. It's got a high wall. It's right on the coast. It's right on the river edge. It's right on that peak. It's right on that ridge. Not no more. Not no more. Go there now. Go there now. There's places today in the Middle East and other places throughout where their empire where they ripped a city right to the ground and it's never been rebuilt again. And you can go there and go look. When they do excavations with archaeology to some of these places, they'll find 10 to 30,000 dead people in an area. Let that sink in. That's not them all dying in one spot. That's them dying and then being dragged to one spot. Yeah. Daenerys had dragons to do this massive amount of killing very quickly. Mongols had horses and bows to do massive amount of killing. If each Mongol rider has 100 arrows or 150 arrows, and there's 100,000 of them, and they're ordered to shoot them all, it's a lot of dead people, especially if there's a lot of people around. Here's another thing. An area surrenders, and there's thousands of people. The Mongols had battle axes. Big battle axes. And they would take like 10,000 Mongols, they'd give them that battle axe and say, you got to kill 10 people, 15 people, 25 people, 100 people. You got to get it done today, this weekend, this week. Kill them. Get your number done. Cut off one of the ears, put them in a bag, and bring them to the office gur, the administrative gur tent. And you bring in your bag and show and prove that you've taken out as many as we asked you to. So let's do the numbers again. 100,000 with a battle axe. They all get asked to kill 10. It's 1 million people. You get 10,000 asked to kill 10. It's 100,000 people. It's 100,000 people getting killed in an afternoon because one guy can kill 10 people in a minute. If they're all lined up, all with the head hanging forward, you know, he takes a big swallow of air rag, their alcohol, take a really big deep breath, pump themselves up. They could chop off 10 heads in a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, chop them all off. So if 10,000 people are doing that, it's a lot of people dead very quickly. What's modern in comparison? Carpet bombing. Carpet bombing. America carpet bombed Japan way before the nuclear bombs went off in World War II. And then after all that carpet bombing, that killed way more Japanese than those 2 bombs. The carpet bombing did. And they did it in a pattern, in a rotating pattern around 2 cities. I'll let you have 2 guesses what those cities were. Anyone that knows about the bombings know these 2 cities' names. And then they drop the bombs on those 2 cities. So they carpet bomb all the way around these 2 cities, which is causing what? All the survivors to go to the only safe space that you can hear about. Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And then they drop the bomb on them. So you ask me, in a fictional TV show, a character that got groped and told that she was going to be given to an army for pleasure, just so her brother can have an army. All the way to the point where she's lost everyone, anything she's ever loved. Her prophecy that she was told by that woman that killed Drogo, that lobotomized him. That prophecy's ringing true. She was never, ever, ever, ever going to be this paragon of good and virtue. This whole show has shown that she's not. She struggles with the idea of good versus evil. But when she doesn't struggle, Dracarys is said quite easily. So, no, I disagree. I think that historically speaking, she's right on track to who she is and who she's going to become. I firmly believe that. Now, what do I think on how she's going to get taken out? I believe she's going to be taken out. I just don't know how. She could take herself out like Cleopatra and poison herself. Arya can do it. Jon can do it. Jon with his, if you're going to order an execution, you got to be the one to carry it out. They say that Jaime's still alive. I have no idea how. That guy was stuck all the way through with that dirk twice in his torso. That guy should be bleeding out. He shouldn't be alive. So, but let's just say he is alive. He's another person that can come out of nowhere and kill Daenerys just like she killed his dad from behind with a knife, or with a sword. And that could be his last act. There is a lineup of options on how she can be brought down. But she is exactly where she should be. If you're going to take historical reference into account, which I think George R.R. Martin is a little bit of a historian buff himself, probably way more than I am. So with the little that I know in history, which it's true, I don't know a lot. I really don't. There's more that I don't know about Mongolia than I know, and it's the subject I know the most. I know the most about that subject, and I just know a little bit about it. So talking about Rome, know even less. Greece, know even less. The British Empire, less. France, Russia, any other empire that's before or after, I don't know as well. I really don't. But with what I do know, Cyrus the Great, Xerxes, Leonidas, Augustus Caesar, Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, all these historical figures in life that have made decisions, some based on emotions and others based on intelligence, some based on opportunity, desperation. All of these things contribute to how an empire is molded. Mark Antony didn't like adultery, and he didn't like trading spouses for political advances. He was the guy in the Roman Empire that instituted monogamy by law. Monogamy by law among the citizens of Rome. He didn't really care about slaves and all that. But my point being is that Daenerys is not doing anything out of left field. If you rewatch the series, you will see it plain as day is that she's being nurtured into a dictator. No matter how much she tries to do good, no matter how noble the choices she tries to make, no matter how peaceful she tries to make her approach, try to encourage it from her adversaries. I'll talk, and they want war instead. They threaten her, they tell her how it is, and she's just sitting there like, look, you really do have an opportunity here, but because you see a woman, you don't respect me. Because you see my age, you disregard me. All mistakes. All mistakes. Alexander was very young when he conquered most of that world that he walked on. He was very young. Genghis Khan, when he was Temujin, that was his real name. Before he was Genghis Khan, he was a very young man when he was uniting Mongolia. So I really don't see what the beef is. I just think that there's a lot of people that they need more. They just need more. I'm not going to say anything else about that. And I would like more too. I would, but I can, in my mind, with when I watch, I can fill in the blanks, and I'm not having a tough time doing it. Am I saying it's perfect? No, there's always going to be a better way to tell that story, especially once it's done, because hindsight is 2020. So these are my thoughts about this season so far, and I'm more forgiving about it. The amount of knowledge that I have in history, as limited as it is helpful, as well as modern politics. Modern civilization helps, as well as how many people you work with. How many of them are thieves? One of them might be. Let's say you work with 50 people. Let's just say one of them's a thief. Still in your outfit. It's still a part of your community. It's the same thing with anything. There's empires that were brought down by fools, complete fools. Like, let's go back to Mongolia. That governor, all he saw was gold and silver and silk and camels and slaves. He's like, why would I even pay for this? There's no military to protect this. All I got to do is denounce it. Tell the local thieves guild that I want half. And tell them where this entourage is. One governor. That governor is demonized in history for what he caused and inflicted upon the Middle East because of greed. One choice. This wasn't a movie. This is real life. One person got greedy and cost the Middle East from 10 to 90 million people in about 100 years. Or less. So is it left field for Dan Arias to hear the bells toll and look around and go, I got no one left. I know what that's like. I got no one here that's been with me in the old world. No one here loves me. Since they don't love me, I'm going to give them a real reason to fear me. And if that doesn't make sense to you, then again, you need to read about some of these people that chose fear. Hell, even in a modern mafia movie that I watched called A Bronx Tale, Chaz Palminteri's character says, in life, when you're living this type of life, you can have the people under you love you or fear you. Love is nice. They will do a lot for you. But the moment things start getting tough, they start forgetting how nice you were. Start taking you for granted. And when you're running a mob outfit, being questioned and disregarded by the people below you, it's not going to work. People are going to get clipped. So he says it's better to be feared. And the thing about fear, when you're ruling with fear, it only works when one, you have strength, and two, when you're alive. Let's say you are fear-inducing as an emperor. You die. Is your son or daughter or your wife fear-inducing like you are? Probably not. So they're not going to be able to maintain that same level of control. Using fear is temporary. It's very temporary. Love will last a while, a long while longer. But that's where you get that term benevolent dictator. People love you. And admire you and want to do things for you. But even going with love, you can drop the hammer every now and again. Where if you have fear, you got to drop the hammer every time. And that don't last. That's why Dan Arias isn't going to last. Because when you rule with fear, the first moment of weakness, people that have been living under fear are going to resent you. They're going to kill you. They're going to poison you. They're going to get the private security detail that you have, kill you in a hallway somewhere. That's how they took out Caligula. They caused a panic at a social event, so he ran through the hallways to the to get out of the building, and while running down those hallways, he got stopped by his Praetorian unit there, and they all stabbed him to death. So fear does not work long term. It just doesn't. It causes way too much resentment. It galvanizes the people under you and the people that border around you against you. But if you have a good council of generals and rich merchants that are backing you up, you can keep that going as long as you're alive. Love is what lasts. Like Augustus, going back to him, he was a Caesar that wanted everyone to love him. He depicted himself as the father of Rome, and all of Rome is his children. So if you get assaulted on the road, come to Dad and tell him about it. He'll send out a legionnaire unit to go figure it out. So, long and short, together, I'm not mad at this season. I just wish there was more episodes like everyone else, but I'm not mad at it. Could I do it better? No. I'm not George R. R. Martin. I'm not those two guys. Those two guys that are writing and directing these things have been working with George the whole time, even this season. Even this season, he's been working with them. And I've been hearing people, it's because of the books. Well, they stopped going off the books in season 4, from what I hear from other people online, that they stopped going off of what the books have been doing because they've deviated right from episode 1. They deviated in it. And if you have two lines traveling side by side, but one's deviating, the further down the line you go, the further apart these lines are, right? To the point where they're not even going in the same direction anymore. Well, that's these shows versus the books, and it's been going that way since season 4 is when the lines have separated. So that doesn't work with, they don't have the books to go off of anymore. Well, they weren't going off of them since season 4 rather. Another is, what's the other? He hasn't been writing them. Well, those two writers have been writing with him as a consultant since episode 1 all the way to the last episode. What George R. R. Martin wanted was that this last season to be longer. So he is in agreement with everyone else. And he also says that the TV show is different and goes in a different direction as books. But everyone that's been watching from episode 1 should know that. So I'm not mad at it. I just think there should be more episodes. I'd put more money on people not paying enough attention in history class than this show being bad. I think that's an easier, safer bet. That's just the way I see it anyway. I hope I didn't offend anyone out there. I really like this show. Just wanted to share some thoughts on it. I can't wait for the finale. Maybe I'll do a whole season decompression conversation. I don't know. I'll think about it. But thank you. I know this is a little bit of a long one. I apologize, but thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy. Come back. And if you have any thoughts, please feel free to jump onto the comment section. I will go over it and address anything that I feel like I absolutely need to address in a later video. So again, thank you for dropping by. Have a great day or night whenever you watch this. Have a good one. Till next time. Bye-bye.